Yeah, what's up, everybody? Unfortunately, this week we had some crazy technical difficulties with
Difficulties.
the camera and everything. So it shut off mid recording. So we didn't want to, have you miss out on what we were talking about. So unfortunately, this week most of this is gonna be an ears only episode.
Yes.
We apologize, but this was a deep conversation,
conversation.
and rather than try to go back over it and make it sound scripted and go back over the questions, we did want to give y'all that raw detail and
Yes.
emotion in what we were talking about. So we hope y'all enjoy the episode, even though you don't get to see our faces, but we try to make sure that next time everything just works how it should. We love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to another amazing episode of the Speak Live podcast. We are so excited to have you with us for another wonderful week. I am your host, Minister Phoenix, alongside my beautiful wife and amazing co-host. Introduce yourself, love.
Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to the Speak Life podcast. This is your host, the one and only Sheikah, your co-host. The one and only Sheikah.
Well, but I'm not even sure if you're a co-host. I think
host?
we're the hosts, the hosts of the podcast. But yes, so welcome back. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment to be a part of these conversations. And
Yes.
these conversations been getting kind of deep lately. If you are part of our faithful listeners, I always gotta shout y'all out because y'all keep us grounded. Y'all keep us going. So we thank y'all for tuning in week after week after week. We really do appreciate y'all. If you haven't gotten the book, go get your copy of the book. Stop playing around. When Three Roads Collide, a memoir of God's grace. You can find it anywhere online where books are sold.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a copy. You can get it on Amazon. Anywhere else, just Google it. You'll find it. And if you really, really, really want a copy, you can just reach out to us. We'll get you a copy of the book, a nice signed copy of the book at that. Now, this week we are going to pick up on a topic that I was about to brush on the last time we talked to you. It's like, nah, let's hold off. Let's do a whole episode on this. So, this week we gonna get a little personal, and we gonna talk about something that really, can probably touch a lot of individuals, and y'all may be able to relate to this one. And this one we're gonna be talking about, dealing with the loss of a child, and that one, this is a hard topic. I ain't even gonna lie. This is a hard topic, but
it's important.
It is because we all deal with loss at different ways. But I think when you lose a child, that's like probably one of the biggest losses that you could probably face. And we want to talk about ways to get through it and ways to deal with it, and just,
especially the loss of a unborn child.
Yes. So to start things off, to get our conversation started, we want to talk about, when we found out we was having Genesis, when we found out you was pregnant with Genesis, how did you feel about that?
Of course, I was excited. I was like, yes, it's the girl. After having two boys, it was excited for me to find out that I was having a girl. I was like, I could have a shopping buddy, like somebody I could do their hair. We could play dress up. It was nice. I was excited.
I know for me, I ain't gonna lie. I thought we were done. I did think we were done. I didn't know that, you did want to try again and go for the baby girl and everything. But then, after kind of getting settled with the thought, I started to, get a little excited. I'm not gonna say how, but I was a little, I was a little excited because I'm like, this time it's gonna be a baby girl. I didn't really know what to expect when it came to having, a daughter. All I had was like the experience with the boys. So I was like, maybe this will be something.
It's gonna be fun.
Maybe this will be something different. And then, as the pregnancy progressed, and then the doctors started telling us some of the complications that they were seeing and things like that. I know for me, that's when things started to get a little different, and so with you when you was going in for the test and everything, and they started telling you the things that they said, the complications that were gonna come, like, how did that make you feel, one, and then how did you deal with that too?
So I went in and I was by myself because I think you had to work. Mm-hmm. So I went to the appointment and they were like, oh, they took they did an ultrasound, and after the ultrasound I went back and they said that they noticed that they saw something behind the baby's head, fluid, right? And I was like, fluid, okay. All right, what does that mean? And then they asked me to go into a little room. And I was like, this is different. I never had to do this with the boys. So right then and then, I was like, something is up. This is not normal. So I was there, and of course I was kind of worried, like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Like, and I start looking at the pictures, the ultrasound pictures, and I'm like, what are they talking about? This look exactly the same as the other two that I've ever had with the boys. Like, what are they talking about? These pictures look exactly the same. So then the doctor came out and he was like, we noticed that, the fluid is behind the baby's head. And when this happened, that means that there's something wrong with the baby. And I was like, what do you mean? What is wrong with the baby? And I'm like, I'm healthy. I'm under 35. Like, what are you telling me?
Any problems.
Like,
shouldn't be any problems.
There shouldn't be any problems. Like, my other two were
perfectly fine.
They were healthy babies.
Perfectly fine.
So I was kind of like, all right, what is it? And they didn't know. So, of course, they were like, oh, we're going to have to do blood tests and all this other stuff. So, make a long story short, they did the blood test. It came back and they said that, oh, we found out that the baby has Turner syndrome. I'm like, Turner syndrome? What's that? This is like speaking French to me. I don't know. So, of course, I told you about it and we just started praying, believing. And I honestly... And they gave me all the like description of like what it means, what could happen, possibly happen. And I was like, okay, all right, I will not believe your report. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I'm like, remember in the scripture, like, whose report will you believe? And I'm like,
will you believe?
I will believe the report of God. Like, he blessed me with this pregnancy, and I will believe him to make sure that I have a healthy pregnancy. And we had gotten prophesied over that we were going to have a baby, and it was going to be a baby girl. So it was kind of like, wait, are you trying to tell me the prophecy was a lie? Like, what's going on? But I believed God that he was going to carry us through. He was going to see us through. We were going to have our baby girl, and we were going to be happy with our baby girl. But then everything happened, and I was just kind of like, I'm still believing God. I was still excited. I was still hoping that what they were saying were not, true. I don't even know if I answered the question.
You did. You did. And
this is emotional for you guys.
No, seriously. It's a lot because I think what really made it even more difficult was the fact, and I probably should have mentioned that first, like, we were prophesied to have this baby. Mm-hmm. It's like, I remember when, we just getting in church and everything, and then, Bishop seeing us only having, 2 kids, and he's like, you need to have a baby girl, and I'm like, Bishop, no, I'm good, we perfectly fine. He's like, you know what, you're gonna have a baby girl. He's like, and I'm not even gonna talk to you anymore. And then it's like, during this same time around his like pastor's appreciation that year, it's like when Bishop Ramsey called you up and everything, and he's like, call you to the altar, talk to you. He's like speaking to you. And I remember when he called us up there, and he was like, I don't know why. He's like, but I see you holding your baby girl. And it's like, mm-hmm. All right. So that was like,
that was twice,
Yeah. And the thing was, it was like, by that time, we had already known that you were pregnant.
But no one else knew,
and
really.
No one else knew. So now we're like, okay, you pregnant with a baby girl. Mm-hmm. And it's like everyone's prophesying about this baby girl. So then it's like to hear the doctors now saying something that was contrary to the prophecy that we received. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was like, nah, this not.
Yeah,
like,
I was not believing the doctor. No, seriously, I was not believing the doctor. I was like, no, I'm having this baby.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I hear you talk about thickness behind the neck and all that other stuff, and this is what that looks like, this, that, and the next. But I'm like, I know what God has been telling us. I know, like, and it's like, it's gotten to the point now where it's like, I had accepted it. And I'm like, all right, I'm like, this baby coming.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care what these doctors are saying. I heard what God said, this baby coming.
Yeah, that's like a moment when you're like, you know, and you believe within yourself, like, this is going to happen, and then someone is just telling you, like no, it's not going to happen.
They're like medically looking at this.
It's not going, and I'm like, no, it is. Like, no, it is going to happen.
Yeah, the things that they were saying, it was like, he's like, if your baby's born, it's like, she's gonna, have special needs. And,
yeah, there was a lot of stuff.
It's like,
and for me. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
No, for me, that was very, very sensitive because at the time I was working with special needs teacher. Yeah, mm-hmm. I was working with special needs students. So it's like, I already know what that looks like. So I was kind of like, wait, are you trying to tell me that? And God bless, like, I love them. I love those kids. They're so amazing. But it's hard, mm-hmm. It's hard. You need a lot of help when you have a special needs child. So it's like, I already knew, and I was like, you know what? I am having this baby. And whenever I go to, like, an appointment, they would always ask me, are you thinking of terminating the pregnancy? And I'm like,
terminate the what?
No, I'm not.
Terminate the what?
I do not care if my child is going to be special needs. That is my child.
Seriously.
That is my child. So therefore, regardless of what you're saying to me, that's my child. Regardless, I'm not going to terminate my pregnancy because you're telling me that my child is gonna be a special needs child. Okay, I'm still gonna love that child regardless. So that was hurtful too, just having, like, whenever I go to the doctor, to have them keep asking like, are you ready? Are you going to, like, all the, like, first thing first, oh, how are you feeling? So are you thinking of, I love doctors. There's some special people, mm-hmm. but I feel like they have to use wisdom.
Especially that one we had.
And be, like, sensitive to people. Like, you can't be a doctor and be so insensitive. But I don't know. I guess that's them being straightforward, I guess. I don't know.
I think that particular one didn't have much tact at all.
Yeah. It was kind of like,
some people are really good at their jobs, others aren't the best, but yeah, so that was, and another thing, I'm like, with this being a child that was prophesied for us, I'm like, God don't give halfway gifts. Mm-mm. I'm like, God isn't gonna give us something, that is gonna make our life more difficult than it needs to be, or He's not gonna give us a gift that we're not going to be able to cherish, and we're not going to be able to love, and we're not going to be able to, like, really, enjoy, so even with what doctors were saying, I'm like, whatever the case may be, if this is the baby that God is giving us, then the baby's going to be
complication
perfect.
And no complication.
Baby's going to be perfect for us for what God, determines that this is what we need.
Exactly.
So then comes the hard part. It's like, when everything happened, like, and we went to the hospital, and then that 6 days before Christmas, when you go to the hospital, and now you're in the room, and then they tell you, like, oh, there's something wrong. When you make the appointment, because you was, we started seeing the spotting and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you go in and then you get the news.
Well, also, I actually, because I was like, what? I want to say I was like 20 something weeks. So it's like pretty far. And I remember, like, I mean, you may not know, but the first initial stage of like when you're about to start feeling the baby move, it's like it's like flutter, like
yeah,
you
always describe it as like butterflies.
Yeah, like it feels like
feeling.
that. Yeah, and it's hard to explain, but if you're a woman, you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. But I felt that, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it was like, oh, the joy of feeling your baby move. And then that, like, the end of that week, I'm like, I don't feel that.
No, because I remember you saying that. You was like, I don't feel the baby moving like that.
I don't feel like butterfly feeling. Like, what happened? Like, so then I would kind of like, because I would like try to press on my belly and like, okay, let me see. I would drink cold water.
Yeah, she would literally be doing stuff to like wake up the baby. Like,
but nothing. And I was like, okay. But then I felt like a sink in my belly. Like, it just didn't feel normal. It didn't feel right. And I was like, something just doesn't feel right. It felt like something like was sitting like below, like, my lower abdomen. I was like, it just doesn't feel right. What's going on? But I was still hopeful. I was like, you know what, God, this baby is blessed, and I'm just speaking everything positive over the baby. I'm like, I'm not thinking about nothing negative. Everything is positive vibes. Like, that's all I'm like thinking. I don't want anything negative around me.
In spite of it all.
Right? And then I went to, and again, you wasn't with me because I think you had to, I don't know what was going on, but you got stuck at work or something. And I went to the appointment, and then they would like try to do the normal ultrasound, and they didn't see the baby moving. They're like, oh, sometimes we have to do extra stuff or whatever. So they did, the extra procedures just to see. And at this point, they're like, yeah. Oh, there was no heartbeat. Yeah, that's what it was. There was no heartbeat, and they were like, oh, what we gonna, sometimes it's hard to hear, so let's do the extra step, and just try to see what's happening. So I was there. It was a long process. I was there waiting, and then they finally, tried again, and they were like, there are no, the heartbeat is not there. And I was like, oh my gosh. And yeah, I started crying. I couldn't control it, uncontrollable crying. And that I think I didn't call you, the doctor called you because I couldn't even talk.
Yeah.
And then she told him about it, and it was like immediately, like, I could tell that he was sad because he was just quiet on the phone. And I was like, God, what is this? Why? How? Yeah. So it was tough. And it was also tough to come home to our boys to tell them, to give them that news, because they were so excited. Yeah. They were excited about it, having a little sister. So it's like that moment when you're like, what do you do when you're like expecting something great, when you were told that, okay, you're gonna have this, and this thing was gonna just bring you so much joy, this person was gonna bring you so much joy, and then to just have it like snap away from you, like, it's not a good feeling. So that whole time, and it was right before Christmas, like, it was tough. And now I'm thinking, like, how am I gonna explain to people, because I was already showing, like, how am I gonna explain to people? And I'm like, it was so weird in that moment, even actually thinking about what I'm gonna say to people, but I knew there was one thing I knew that I was gonna have a baby girl. I knew that much, because I'm like, God, you promised it, and it's going to happen. I knew that.
I remember that phone call so clearly. And it was like, I went and I got the boys from school because it was both still at NACS at that time. And I was like, the doctor was like, if you could come to the hospital and everything. And I remember dropping them off to your mother's house because I was like, I'm not bringing them with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I dropped them off. And it was like the minute they got out the car, I can only remember one time where I really cried. Like, I cried in that moment. Like, I couldn't even pull off. I couldn't even pull off from in front of the house. I just sat there and I bawled. I mean, like, I cried. So it was like getting hit by a wall, because it was like, at that moment, like, for me, it took me a while to accept that this was happening. I was like I said, I thought we were done. And it went from this is happening to like, oh, wow, this is really happening. So now it's like you're planning your life around bringing another person into the world again. Our kids are excited. Everyone's excited. Family's excited. Oh, we having a baby girl. And then it's like a few weeks before, we're at Christmas banquet. We seeing everybody. Everyone's excited. Oh my gosh. And then it's like now 6 days before Christmas, we find out our baby girl is not coming into the world. And I felt like I was like set up to
take off.
Because I felt like I was like, it's like, you go up the roller coaster, you're going up, and it just feels like it all just swooped from under me. And it's like I just fell flat on my face. And it just like, it was just a unbelievably sad and I don't even want to say disappointing feeling. But for me, it was just so unbelievable because we never experienced anything like this.
No, that was different. And I kept thinking, like, did I do something? Like, like you get to that point. I don't know if anybody, if you're watching this and you ever lost a child, and a child that hasn't been born yet, I don't know, the feeling of it where you feel like, was it something that I did? Like, you start feeling like you want to blame yourself, right? And I know I was going through a rough time, and I know I was very emotional, and with everything that I was going through, and I thought maybe because I was stressed. So then I start blaming myself, like, oh, it's because it's the stress. I was stressed, and this is what happened when I'm stressed. I don't know. I was just blaming myself. Anything I could think of to blame myself. That's what I was thinking of. And I remember, someone, a friend of mine, said to me, like, you know what, Sheikah, a delay does not mean a denial. And those were the words I really needed to hear. Because once I heard those words, like, it felt like something just, like, rebirthed inside of me. Like, I was just like, wow. I was like, you know what? And I already had believed that I was going to have my baby girl. So once that person said that to me, it was kind of like the confirmation that I needed to say, oh, I'm still going to have my baby girl. I may lose this one, but I am still going to have a baby girl. And she can't replace the one that I lost, but I'm still going to have that experience of having a daughter. And I love my baby girl that I lost, but I'm still going to have joy from this one that I'm going to have. And I didn't know yet, like, we just lost. And I'm already thinking like that because I'm like, God, there has to be something greater to come out of this. So if you lost a child and you're going through it, yes, you might blame yourself, but you know what? It's okay, because a lot of us go through this. But you know what? You just can't stay there. You just have to keep trying. And that's what we did.
I ain't gonna lie, I was in shock. I was like at a loss. I was kind of confused. I'm like, when and this is the piece that gets me when people, talk about, the life of a fetus and things like that. Like, I like literally was imagining life around this little peanut of a something that wasn't even fully developed, but like I was envisioning life around this little person that we were making.
She was already special.
Yeah, so it's like you a lot of people don't see it as like that being a little life, and I'm not here to debate ethical anything's about abortion or anything like that, but like for me, like I never really understood like how life could be so important and tied around this little potential life that's coming into the world.
Yeah.
And when it wasn't until that moment that I really understood like, like this situation was so serious for me. And it just like, it really did change my perspective on a lot, having to go through that. And in the midst of that, I was really confused on like God, like, what's up? Like, what's going on? But you promised us this, This is what you said was gonna happen. I felt, what I felt like? I felt like the rich Shunammite woman that Elisha went and gave that child to. Yeah. And the child got sick and died, and she was like, I ain't even asked you for no kid. And you gave me this shit. That's how I felt. I was like, God, I was perfectly content with my two boys and,
but I did ask.
And my family. I was perfectly fine. I ain't even asked for this child, God.
I was fine.
And you gonna say you gonna give me a child, and then you gonna take it like this 6 days before Christmas. I was in my feels. I cannot lie. I was in my feels. And I was worried because I don't know what happens next after that. I was worried about you. I was worried about the boys. It's like having to break that news to them was hard because they was really sad about that when we told them.
Yeah, no, it was hard. It was hard even seeing them, how they react, because they were very happy. They were so happy that they were going to have a baby sister. And then to break the news to them that, you know what, you're not.
Goodness.
It was like, you could just see their face. And I was just like just looking at their faces, I was like, oh my gosh. Like,
that was hard.
You could tell they were hurt. They were hurt. So it was hard. But I think the good thing about it is that I had enough faith to know that, yes, God, you took this child. And because my prayer was that, you know what, God, if this child is going to come into the world and you know that I can't handle it because of whatever problem this child was going to have, whatever medical issues, like if you know, God, that this is just something that I can't handle, and I know that the doctors they're asking me, when are you going to terminate? Are you going to terminate? And I kept like, I would feel so bad if I had terminated that pregnancy.
Oh, Lord.
So I was like, nope, I'm not. I was praying for a miracle. I was hoping for a miracle. I honestly thought that God was going to work a miracle. And I remember saying to the doctor, I'm like, you know what? My God, Lord, that I serve is going to work a miracle. Yes, you may never see this before, but I'm going to be the first.
I thought God was going to work.
And I said that to her, like, because I really believe that
I thought for real
God was going to make a
God
work
was
a
about
miracle.
to pull a biblical miracle out.
Yes.
In modern day, I thought it was gonna. That was me. I was like, I hear what you're saying, doctors.
But you're gonna see.
But God is gonna.
God's gonna show up
God's
for
gonna
me.
do something.
Yes.
God's gonna do something.
But then when that did not happen, when I had the miscarriage, I realized that, you know what? I said, God, let your will be done. If this child is not for us, do it naturally. Let it happen naturally. I don't want to be the one to say, honey, let's terminate this pregnancy.
I couldn't
God,
do that.
Yeah, because I couldn't bring myself to it. I really couldn't. And so what I did, I'm like, you know what, God? And honestly, God know what you can handle. Like, I'm like, God, let your will be done. I love this child. I already had a connection with this child, right? So for me, it was just like, God, you do what you do best. If this is not for me, then let it happen naturally. If you know that I cannot handle what's coming, let it happen naturally. So when it happened, yes, I was hurt. I was like, it was surprising to me, but I remember what I prayed about. I remember what I said to God. So for me, it was like, you know what, God? You said in everything, give thanks. And I was just giving him thanks because he knew, like I said, I was working with kids with special needs. So I know how hard it was. And they're sweet kids. They're so innocent. They're so loving. But my prayer was, the fact that the doctors keep asking me, my prayer was, God, you do what you do best. If it's your will, let it be done. So I remember that, and that's what actually got me through.
Because I was gonna ask, that was one of my questions, is like, how do you cope in that season after, you know, you're suffering with the loss? What are some things that helped you to cope with it? What are some things that helped you to deal with it? What are some things that helped you, like, in those moments? And you kind of answered that.
You know what? Yeah, that's what it was. And my faith was a big thing, because I don't know how it would be for the people who don't have that faith, you know, and who does not have a relationship with God, to say, you know what, God, like to pray like how I prayed, you know. So it's just a tough one where you're like, you literally have to lean on, like, you gotta dig deep and just bring out some courage and some hope, like just like some positivity, like take the limits and make it into something great, right? And that's what I did. I was like, you know what? I cannot sit here like this. I have to turn whatever the limitation was into something even greater. Because if I had just sat there and cried, like, it honestly wouldn't help me. But then I was like, okay, I had a miscarriage. Yes, it's painful. I lost a baby girl that I really loved so much. But you know what? I can do it again. Like, what's stopping me?
I didn't even think about that one.
No, I literally was like, all right, after the DNC, they were like, oh, you got to wait 6 weeks. Okay. 6 weeks came. Let's go, babe. Like, I was like ready. Like, honestly, it was like a motivation for me. And I know that some people, they get like worried and scared.
I was scared. I ain't even gonna lie.
Yeah, and like, okay, I don't want to do this again. Like, what if? But I wasn't even thinking like that. And you know why? Because one, we got prophesied over twice, right? About this baby girl.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I was like, I remember what my friend said. She was like, a delay does not mean a denial. I was like, that's a delay. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to get my baby girl.
Mm-hmm.
And what's that? Third, I was like, I'm not going down like this.
Okay.
I'm not going down like this.
All right.
Like,
well, then.
I'm going to get up. I'm going to dust myself off. and I'm gonna keep running.
So.
And that's what I did. So if you're going through something where you feel like, okay, you lost a child and you're scared to try again because you don't know the what ifs, don't even think of the what ifs.
There's always going to be what ifs.
There's always going to be what ifs.
Always going to be what
but
ifs.
Don't let the what ifs stop you from trying again. It doesn't matter. Even if you keep trying, if you have like 10 miscarriages, like, listen, don't stop. Try. You know. Yeah, that's how I feel. I don't know. I'm like, I'm not going down like this. I'm gonna keep pushing.
Yeah, and you did, because I know, like, I think this was one of those moments where, like, I was just kind of watching to see, you know, where you were going with things.
I was,
because it's like I couldn't fathom how you felt in those moments. You know, I couldn't imagine how you... I know how I felt, so I'm like, if I feel like this, I'm like, she must... Like, I can't even think about how she feels with this. I was like, so, you know, I was just, like, feeling it out. I wasn't sure if you wanted to try again or anything. I was like, I'm just going to see where this goes.
And, you know, it's important to have a partner that actually is, like, waiting for the go-ahead from you. Because... then that makes it seem like, okay, because everyone deal with loss differently and everyone process these things differently. But for me, I didn't need a long time to process, because I'm like, okay, I'm not getting any younger. And I was thinking about my age, and I'm like, I'm not getting any younger. And this just needs to happen, because I'm getting my baby girl. I was determined.
She was determined.
And I'm like, and I prayed, and I'm like, God, you're not a man that you can lie.
That's
so
true.
You
That's
are going
right
to
there.
give me my baby girl, because you
it.
promised.
You said it.
You promised.
You said
me
it.
this
So now you
baby
gotta
girl.
deal with it. You said it. You need to deal with it.
And a part of me was like, but what if I get pregnant? The what ifs. What if I get pregnant and it's a boy? Then what? I'm like, you know what? Nope.
Oh, you know
I'm
what?
like,
I ain't even think
I'm
about
like,
that one.
No, I thought about it. I was like, not today.
I didn't
Not
even.
today, devil.
That didn't even cross
Not
my
today.
mind. That
like,
didn't cross my mind not
like,
once.
Lord.
No,
I thought about it. I was like, but what if?
I didn't.
Like, all these
all.
what ifs. All these what ifs were coming in my mind.
Oh,
what
my
if
goodness.
it's a boy? Then what? I was like, nope, not today. That distraction, not today.
I didn't even think about that.
And
until this moment right now, that was never even a thought in my mind. Like, what if it's a boy?
I thought about it. The what ifs.
But you know what's crazy? You know what's crazy about that? Like, I'm like, God always gives me the insight into what will happen when it comes to our children.
That's true.
Like when Lysa was coming, I was like, it's gonna be a boy. Timothy was coming, I was like, it's gonna be a boy. Even when, you know, Genesis, I was like, it's gonna be a girl. He was like, babe, I think I'm pregnant again. I was like, oh, we gonna have another girl. It was like, even before like the whole test and everything is like, I'm like, it's gonna be a girl. She's like, how do you know? I'm like, listen, one thing God always does, he lets me in on the secrets. He lets me in on the secrets.
No, that was what a joyous moment it was for me. Man. I was so happy. I was like, yes, Lord, you did it again. You did it.
Oh, and then the doctor told me before he told you. I remember with that. She's like, oh, I know. She's like, I'll leave the room and let you know. She was like, what is it gonna be?
Yeah, but I wanna go back and touch on one thing where when I went in for the DNC.
Oh,
right?
my Lord.
I went in for the DNC.
That was
and
one
there
of the
was
most stressful times of my life.
I was so nervous about that, because they're like, oh, we're gonna have to put you to sleep. I'm like, I've never been put to sleep before. Like, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna wake up? Like, it was just like a whole bunch of stuff going on in my head.
In your head. In my head. Oh, Lord.
And it was honestly, I felt like, I was like, are they preparing for me to die? Because they were like, oh, you got to take your necklace off. You got to take everything off. You got to take your ring off. You got to give him everything.
I'm sitting here holding the ring.
I'm like, why I got to take everything
I'm
off?
panicking.
Like, am I not going to wake up?
I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh, gosh. I'm like, what if I end up as a single dad? I'm like, I was fretting. I was fretting. I'm like, oh gosh. And then it's like just waiting because after a while they kick you out. They're like, all right, we gotta take her in. So I'm like, all right, I'll see you when you come out. Then you're just like waiting and waiting. I'm like,
I could tell you was nervous, and you was making me nervous because I'm looking at you. I'm like, oh my gosh. Normally you're the one who's strong, and you're
I was scared. I ain't even go front. I was terrified. I was like, this ain't like going to the dentist, and they did this. They're like, this is actually like surgery, like for real.
But one thing though, what I wanted to touch on was that the doctor, he was a doctor that was just God sent.
That guy was amazing.
He explained to me, because I was still like confused about the whole
it doesn't
thing
make sense,
and
like
how it happened, and like how I'm healthy, like why, because the other doctor was so insensitive. So this one explained to me, he's like, think about driving. He's like, this is what happened. Like, you could drive for so many years and you could be the perfect driver, right? And then one day you just go out and you're being cautious, you're taking your time, you're doing everything right. And boom, you hit someone, you hit another car. And you're like, wait, how can this be? Like, I'm a perfect driver. Like, I'm great. Like, so many years I've been driving and nothing ever happened. Like, what happened now? And he was like, it's the same way with pregnancy, where you could have so many kids and your pregnancies could be so great, but it only take something just to happen where you're like, okay, this one is gonna have something wrong with it, and then it's gonna cause you to lose the baby, or you're gonna have a miscarriage or whatever. But I understood it like that.
Yeah, how he got it with me was like, he's like it's like rolling a dice. He's like, every time
he did say that
he's like every time you get pregnant, it's like rolling a dice. He's like, every time is different and you never know what you're going to get. He's like, so some days, he's like, you may get a 5, you may get a 7. He's like, but then some days you may roll snake eyes. He's like, and you just end up with you just get the hand that you're dealt. He's like, so he's like, every time is absolutely different. He's like, you could have healthy, and then one is like, here comes, a birth defect, or here comes, something. So I was like, okay.
So when he explained that, I was like, oh, I understand.
This guy's good.
This is, and honestly, the way he explained it, like that was another one too. I forgot about that, but like the way he explained it, like it made so much sense.
And he was very compassionate. That was a very compassionate, understanding doctor.
Yes,
and like that was in that time.
He was very encouraging.
That was very helpful, and it was very encouraging. Especially because
he's
like, you can go back. He's like, you can go again.
Yes.
I was like,
and he was helping me believe, like, yes, I can go back.
I can go again.
But yeah. So it's one of those things where, and honestly, one of my thing too, I was like, well, God, if it doesn't happen, and I happen to have another miscarriage, you know what? I could just adopt. There's so many kids out there who need a home. And that was my, next go-to if it didn't happen. I was like, we're just going to have to adopt a little girl. Because we still, regardless of what.
A little girl was coming into this house. A little
girl was going to come in this house.
We were getting a little girl.
Regardless.
We was getting us a baby girl one way or another. One way or another. There was a baby girl coming.
Yeah. So if you're going through something, and you have you have miscarriage, and you feel like, okay, this is it, there's always option, right? There is. If you can't have on your own, there's so many kids out there who need a loving home. So
don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged. Don't give up. Just try to explore your options. And as you said, delay doesn't mean denial.
It doesn't mean a denial.
And
yes.
I think that That was something that you leaned on. I was leaning on you on that one. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
I don't know how we haven't experienced this before, but
yeah. And now we have our little girl, and she is
running my house. That's what she's doing.
She's fantastic, phenomenal. She is amazing.
No, she is
everything I would ever
definitely different.
Want, imagine.
I couldn't even imagine.
She is a gift. She is everything that. Oh my gosh, she make our life complete. She complete our family. We love her. She is busy. She is busy.
Busy.
But she is amazing.
That is true.
Amazing.
That is true. It's like one of those things that you never knew that you needed. And then when you get it, you're like, how did I ever live this life without you? You know?
Yes.
So
be blessed.
Be blessed.
And honestly, just keep the faith.
Yes.
Don't give up.
Find some. If you ain't got some faith, find some faith, because it will help you.
It will help you.
It will help you for real.
And yes, we were sad. We cried.
Oh
it
boy,
was
did
painful,
we cry!
But guess what? At the end of it, when we got our baby girl, and like it just brought so much joy to us.
Still bringing joy.
Still bringing joy. Like it was just something like, wow. But we did not let that delay keep us down. We're like, you know what?
Don't let the delay cause you to miss your blessing.
Yes.
Don't let the delay cause you to miss your blessing.
So just keep the faith, and if you experience a loss, and if you're going through one right now, keep trying.
Go again.
Right? Go again. Don't give up.
All
right.
But we love y'all, and this has been an amazing episode. Thank you for tuning in with us for another amazing episode. Remember, Death and Life is in the power of your tongue. So make sure that you speak life. If you haven't gotten the book, don't forget to check out the book. Yes. Everything we're doing, check out the website, 3roadscollide.com. We love y'all.
We love you guys.
Have an amazing
blessed week.
Blessings.